Okay, let's get started. Alright, so this is Alice.
No one knows what the future will bring. I only hope that when the time comes, we won't regret this.
You know, out of all the animations, that seemed like the most basic one out of the entire game.
Just getting
Yeah,
up.
out of the entire game, that one was possibly the most clunky.
With a gloomy sigh, Alice came to her feet.
I'm not done with the lecture yet. You don't think that was entirely Shizuki's benefit, do you? Your opinion matters the most, and we still haven't heard it yet.
If you must stick to your plan, that's fine. I'll stick to mine.
Alice glided soundlessly to the door. As the girl in black opened it, she paused, barely lit by the dim corridor. Then, without warning,
Uh,
to the rhythm of her footsteps, the small glass bottle floated into the air and shattered without mercy.
That is what I should have done earlier.
Her sharp tone made Sojiro's face go pale.
Goop.
Alice's
Sojiro.
yeah. Alice's voice was so quiet, it was hard to tell if she was being serious or mocking him.
I forgot to mention something.
She icily eyed them before turning away, and in a voice even colder than her gaze, stated,
I'm still not happy with this arrangement.
Her frigid departure seemed to forebode the many difficulties that lay ahead.
She is such a sore loser.
Aoko leaned back on the sofa while hurling abusive epithets. Her face looked even more irritated than usual.
She says letting you go and letting you stay here out of the question. But I don't see her coming up with any bright ideas. She's as stubborn as a mule. I wouldn't put it past her to resort to violence to get her way.
Sojiro threw a wary glance at Aoko while she grumbled. He wondered what Alice's show of defiance meant, shattering the glass bottle like she did.
I thought I could convince her by including the backstop that we could erase your memory, but she's having none of it. It's rare that Alice is even cognizant of other people, but maybe having you live here was a step too far for her. She was fine while you were sleeping, but once she saw you awake, it must have roused her sadistic side. Watch your back, Sojiro. She just might come to finish you off.
If anything, Aoko's warning was an indication that persuading Alice had hit a dead end. I think now that Alice is actually out, I'll have Nancy take over for Aoko.
Okay. Okay.
Somehow, it doesn't seem like the situation has changed much from the other night, Aozaki.
She shot him an unconcerned look in reply.
I mean it, really. That girl was just itching to finish what you started. Next time I make eye contact with her, I may not walk away alive. This must be what people call a cliffhanger.
I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen. Besides, Alice isn't feeling as urgent as I was at the amusement park, so there's always a chance that she'll get over it by herself.
You mean her reason for wanting me dead is different from yours?
Yeah, That time at the park was because of our strict adherence to the secrecy law. But we've solved it, for now. Even Alice understands how creepily earnest you are. So she should have no reason left to worry about confidentiality. At this point, she probably just doesn't want you to live here, hence her desire to murder you.
She said so matter-of-factly, her eyes cold and serious. Sojiro had hoped for a trace of deceit or exaggeration, but alas.
I did get that impression from her. But it's strange. If that's how she really feels, then surely we can find another solution.
Perhaps feeling guilty about putting Alice out, Sojiro looked uncharacteristically concerned. Aoko immediately knew what his words really meant.
You mean like keeping you locked up inside that tiny glass bottle until we find the magecraft needed to erase your memory?
The apathy in her voice until now was gone. Sojiro answered with a simple nod. In truth, it was undoubtedly the easiest solution for all parties concerned. However,
Sojiro, I don't break promises. Remember that.
she hated taking the easy way out. And that quiet fury was clear in her soft words. As for where that fury was directed, Sojiro was acutely aware. The pain in his chest made him regret making her say those words.
I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking.
His sudden apology caused her usual sullen expression to return. Aoko had not appreciated how angry she was, let alone the reason for it. To her, his apology had come out of nowhere.
I don't get you at all sometimes. What are you apologizing for this time?
She stared at Sojiro, unblinking.
Oh, I'm not sure myself. I guess I just feel like I should. He's just like me for real.
He's a Canadian.
Oh god. I didn't know you were Canadian, Kanye.
I'm not.
Even in saying he was not sure, Sojiro had answered honestly. Aoko was at a loss for words.
But I get what you're trying to say, Aozaki. Keeping a promise is more about the process than the outcome.
He shot her a brazenly honest smile. That smiling face, filled with blissful ignorance, almost made her smile back instinctively.
Now you get it. If life were only a means to an end, I couldn't live with myself.
Aoko attempted to cover for her embarrassment with a quick retort. Though unintentional, having her true feelings exposed like that made Aoko a little uncomfortable. Finding offense in something was second nature to Aoko. Being made to feel uncomfortable was not. Though far from being unhappy at the remark, she turned away from its speaker. To disguise her perceived shame, Aoko started up the conversation again.
If I say I'll let you go, you can be sure I'm going to do just that, regardless of how I feel. And if letting you live here is what it takes to keep my promise, I can take it, even if it means Alice and I butt heads. Even if they're just idle threats, there's no way I'd let her bottle you up forever.
Thanks. Now I get why you given up trying to persuade her. She won't be persuaded anymore. Oh. So that's why you called it a Cold War.
It's not as if I'm doing this for you. I'm just keeping my promise. Like you said, I've done my part. Now it's your turn, Sojiro. The ball's in your court.
Huh?
He replied, tilting his head.
Alright, listen up. I spent 2 entire days arguing and trying to convince Alice into agreeing to this cohabitation idea because, hello, I was the only one capable of doing it. But I've hit a dead end. From now on, I'm taking a hands-off approach. I'll protect you from Alice for the time being, but in the meantime, you're the only one who can convince her to accept you, Sojiro.
What?
Sojiro had not expected that at all. Alice Kuonji, the girl in black who kept everyone at arm's length. If Aoko was a modern-day mage in hiding, then Alice was a bona fide witch from the Middle Ages.
Aozaki, you understand how difficult that will be, right?
Of course I do, and now you know how I feel.
You know, I'm just realizing this is a very different dynamic between... No, it's not even that different. It's a different flavor of the same dynamic you two had as Jill and
Oh, true.
Gillian.
I could see it.
I see
could
it
see it.
now.
Right?
Oh, I wouldn't have thought about that if you hadn't said anything.
Right. Except Aoko's a lot more punchy than Jill.
Oh my
True.
gosh.
Aoko stood up from the sofa. This was the end of the discussion. At least for now.
So now you have an idea of what kind of people we are. The less involved you are in magecraft, the better, so I'll spare you any further lectures. The long and short of it is, you'll be living here for 3 months. Your first objective, or first trial if you like, is to somehow get Alice to accept you as her roommate.
Trial? You just called it a trial.
Sugarcoating it won't do you any favors. After all, blow it and you're a dead man, remember?
With her cold-blooded remark, Aoko started walking towards the door.
Ellen, one more thing. About your room. It's up on the 3rd floor. There's a set of stairs on the far side of the 2nd floor hall, so use those. Also, this is not a dorm, so you're free to spend your time however you want. But whatever you do, do not go into the West Wing. I rent the East Wing, so it should be relatively safe in comparison. But still, it's generally safer to not wander around. In other words, the safest places for you are your room and the drawing room.
Imagine renting an entire wing of a mansion.
Yeah,
God.
right?
That's like renting a house.
That just makes me feel really bad about my current living situation. Just be like, yeah, I'll just rent like a whole
We're
wing
so
of a
poor.
mansion.
God.
Wait, is that really all you're going to tell me about the mansion? Aozaki, that's messed up. That seems way more important to explain than magecraft.
I think we should give Sojiro a little bit more emotion. I think he needs to be a little bit more crazed.
Huh?
Or just more emotion in general. I think ever since I've heard him go, huh? I've imagined him to be a little bit funnier in his expression.
You're
Can we-
right.
Can we try that?
Wait, is that really all you're going to tell me about the mansion? Aozaki, that's messed up. That seems way more important to explain than magecraft.
I like this Sojiro better. Especially now that I'm seeing comparisons between you two as Jill and Gillian. Now I'm just
Oh my god.
I need to see this dynamic in this visual novel now.
Oh my god. It's happening.
He desperately called out to her as she began to leave the drawing room.
What is that face?
Aoko could not help but I'm pretty sure it meant but pity Sojiro.
By pity?
Can't you at least show me around?
Sorry, but I'll have to pass. Showing a country bumpkin the lay of the land twice is plenty enough for me. Plus, you just woke up. Why not take it easy in your room for the rest of the night? I'll show you how to get to school in the morning. That face! She's doing the Anya face! It's not like I'm made of free time. My obligation to put up with you ends as soon as final exams are over. If you don't find some way to make nice with Alice or find some way to blackmail her within a week, well, you know what that means.
With barely a wave of a goodbye, the student council tyrant walked out. He unconsciously clenched the hand he had raised. Left all alone, he was at a complete loss. Then, as if to encourage him, chirp, chirp, chirp. With the sound of lightly fluttering wings, a blue robin appeared out of nowhere. The tiny, chubby bird innocently looked Sojiro up and down. The blue robin, a bird said to bring happiness according to folklore, flapped its little wings as if to cheer him on. A little side note, and something you wouldn't know until you played like the extra stories. The blue robin is supposedly supposed to have like a Scottish accent.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it was first time I read it. It was like, why is he speaking like this?
What?
I guess my dogs don't like the Scottish accent.
Dogs!
Then, with a flutter, it mercilessly flicked off the lights. It's like you say, oh God, you can't have you leaving all the lights on. Electricity ain't cheap this time and age.
True.
Did not.
The
do
electricity is
Scottish
still not cheap.
accent. Yeah. Leaving Sojiro alone in the drawing room, Aoko returned to her bedroom. She closed the door to her room, and as soon as she sat on her bed, she was overcome by an unexpected wave of exhaustion. Sojiro had no way of knowing, but she had been preparing for war. In the event Alice impulsively pulled out a ploy, Aoko had to be ready to react in an instant. She sighed heavily, but not from the fatigue she felt at fighting with Alice.
Was I too hard on him?
She frowned a dejected frown. What weighed on Aoko's mind was not Alice.
I mean, going easy on him wouldn't do him any favors either. The best thing he can do for himself is to lay low.
It would be trouble if he wandered around like he owned the place, after all. The safest thing for him would be if he holed up in his room, too scared out of his wits to leave it.
God, I hope he doesn't think I'm his ally or something. Alice is the lucky one. I'd kill to have him treat me as a stranger.
She nodded to herself, agreeing with her take on the situation. For the most part, it was a sound plan. If there were a problem, it would be this.
Sorry, Ozeki. I just have one quick question.
Perfect. Not 10 minutes had passed since leaving him in the living or drawing room. For Sojiro to shirk off what she had said and visit her room so fast, it was like he had no sense of danger at all.
I need to go outside.
It's
I'm
like a
sorry.
dog.
I just read exactly balance. You and I, our brains clicked, and suddenly they met up together and high-fived each other.
I mean, it's literally what my dog Yongi will do. Like,
I
he
need
will
to
be
go
sleeping
outside.
with Jasmine, my sister, next to her side. He'll jump off the bed, come over to my room, and like, he will make as loud of a sound as he can when he sits down, and then go.
Really?
Yes, every time.
Oh My gosh.
I'm just a tool to my damn dog. Of course, he would ask to leave the house. Aoko lacked the energy for a sarcastic barb.
I won't wander around the mansion, and I'll come right back when I'm finished. I just figured I should check if there was a curfew or anything.
Oh my god, you're so obedient. Work, is it?
How did you know?
Sojiro exclaimed in surprise. When it was Aoko who decided to display her shock at him.
Fine, you can go. You should make sure you're back on the estate by 10 every night. As long as you keep to the curfew, you can go back to work. Wait, you can go work your after school job, have a barbecue in the garden, do whatever you want. I don't care. The front door's never locked anyway.
Get the impression you're angry with me.
I'm angry, all right. Just not with you. I'm angry at myself for caring what happens to you. And before you go out, take this pill.
Huh?
Shoves random drugs at him.
Oh, thanks.
Sojiro took the purple pill from her outstretched hand and dubiously put it in his mouth. Purple? Is red and blue together?
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't make a
Imaginary
choice?
technique.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I just understood what you were saying. Kanye, god dumb. He told himself that it must have been some kind of medicine.
Alright, I'm off then. Thanks for everything, Aozaki.
Oh, and don't leave through the window this time, okay?
Sojiro laughed himself all the way to the foyer, unsure of what exactly he had found funny. Aoko watched him go, both indifferent and amazed all at once.
Ah, well, that happened about a day and a half. Wait, man, I'm not sure what's happening to my eyes today. Well, that happened about half a day earlier than planned. He was supposed to take his first pill tomorrow morning.
She huffed, ruffling her hair in exasperation and returning to her room. Discerning what had made Sojiro tick was a waste of brain matter. In all likeliness, he was more concerned about missing 2 days of work than his own well-being after being bedridden for 2 days. Alright, let's switch it up. Let's have Kanye do the narrating.
With a day's work behind him, Sojiro returned to the mansion.
I'll take over Sojiro this time. This must be it. It's the only set of stairs leading up from the second floor hall.
It was just before midnight. This was the scene that awaited him beyond the rickety staircase.
Uh,
Not much surprise, Sojiro, or rather, being surprised had become normal to him. The scene, however, was enough to leave him speechless. The room allotted to Sojiro. No matter how he looked at it, no matter how he ran it through his mind, was without a shadow of a doubt an attic. This treatment stirred a tinge of anxiety in him. Just as he was about to flop onto the taut sheets of his bed, wondering if he could make this work despite his share of other problems, he noticed an awkward courtesy so meager as to be useless.
Something to use if you get cold. Consider it a gift.
The message in the memo pointed out the meticulous personality of the author. The bed had been perfectly prepared. Carefully setting aside the blanket that had been painstakingly placed on the edge of the bed for him in case he needed it, he looked up at the sky. Though faint, the stars twinkled through the skylight. For a mountain boy, the meager light was more than enough for him. The stark contrast with the drawing room had caught him off guard, but now he had collected himself. It was not so bad. This room fit his personality. Even if he was still not used to the building, he felt more at ease here than he had did any building in a city. Perhaps because it was built on a hill surrounded by the woods. The atmosphere here was a little closer to the mountains where he used to live.
Oh, is it normal for there to be fog inside the house?
He crooked his neck, pondering over the spectacle he had witnessed. On the way to his room, Sojo had encountered what looked like the fog in the foyer on the second floor. The misty fog drifted into a portion of the corridor, reminding him of a swarm of mosquitoes. As he stared at it, he swore he could make out a strange landscape and moved closer to get a better look. Again, out of nowhere, inside of the mansion, a little blue bird darted purposefully in front of him.
A bird?
The bird caught his attention, stopping him in his tracks. When he looked to check on the fog again, the strange scene had disappeared.
This house must have a draft. I'll ask Aozaki about it tomorrow.
He muttered to himself as he sat on the bed. Meager as it was, the starlight peeping in through the skylight calmed him.
Yeah, this will work.
Exhaling slowly, he lay down. For the time being, he had the essentials needed to live, and his bed was many times softer than it had appeared. Thinking his worries seemed smaller than they were, he quickly drifted off to sleep. That was the story from when he opened his eyes to when he fell asleep. Just like that, the short night following, the long night was over. For one thing was true. Sojo was an optimist to a fault, but it wasn't the end of the world. Now, let us rewind 5 hours prior to this glutton for punishment going to bed. It was 7 o'clock in the evening, just after the unproductive discussion between the two mages and the boy had ended. Leaving her roommate and the intruder in the drawing room, the girl walked alone through the foyer. Foyer. From there, she headed to the west wing. These were Alice Kawanji's personal chambers, in which even her roommate, Aoka Aozaki, seldom dared to step foot. Foyer or foyer?
I
Foyer.
think it's foyer, yeah.
Foyer. Okay, the foyer was illuminated only by pale moonlight. Hard footsteps echoed through the dreamy moonlight lobby. In such mansions in Japan, there was no custom for removing shoes at the door. Hence, Alice crossed the foyer in her boots. She only removed them when she relaxed in her bedroom. Suddenly, she remembered something from her childhood. She used to enjoy the feeling of the cold hardwood floor on her bare feet, and would walk around the foyer on particularly sunny days. After her father affectionately scolded her for it, she never did it again.
Uh, can I have you voice Alice, Nancy?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I don't know why I bother. Alco never does.
She let out quite a quiet sigh. Alice's new roommate, whom she took on after coming to Japan, would not comply with her instructions.
I'll take over Aoko. Old habits die hard.
Aka would say, changing into her slippers. How might have found it natural to do so, given that she lived in a typical Japanese house through middle school, but every time Alice heard her flip-flopping through the foyer, she wanted to cancel their cohabitation. By now, Alice was not particularly bothered by it anymore. Human adaptability was remarkable at times, and ungracious at others. The emotional attachments of the past had proved far too brittle under the weight of reality. The little blue bird was perched on a banister. Its tiny chirping made Alice stop and look its way.
Leave him be for tonight. Right now, he's Aoko's problem.
Lack of feeling in her voice made the bird tilt its head as it sang. Tweet, tweet, tweet. It trilled as though questioning its master's uncharacteristic leniency.
A promise is a promise. I can at least tolerate him for tonight. Aoko and the boy did go to such lengths, after all.
She said to the bird, her voice betraying her discontent.
If you win, I'll let you go.
She would keep that promise, in spite of the unquenchable desire to fight that burning in her chest.
But I didn't make any guarantees after that. She scraped a win, even with the handicap in our little game. But I won't let her strut around childishly, rubbing it in my face forever.
Perhaps it was perfectionism, though born of
Fastidiousness.
fastidiousness, but despite her prim demeanor, Alice Kwanji was a sore loser. It did not matter to her whose magecraft was superior. Losing the game had proven hard to move on from. The little bird fluttered its wings in agreement. Drinking in Alice's contempt, it was itching to dive-bomb the invader. It looked like a soldier saluting the superior officer as it preened itself. Blue Bird turned to face its master. Tweet, 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 tweet. Its light-hearted tweeting seemed to display a desire to deal with Sojiro first thing in the morning.
Indeed. If he gives us a reason, let us put him in a bottle. Or perhaps a book.
Except her words lacked any bite. On the face of it, they were the chilling kind one might come to expect from a witch's lips, and again so tame as to remind you of a certain robin's flapping.
It's only a matter of time, and there's not very much at that. My patience has its limits. Aoko is in no position to dote on others in the first place. I give her 5 days, and then...
When that time came, expelling him will be simple. Alice was well aware her roommate was a pragmatist, no vision. The situation she created would not allow her to wait around. She could only afford to protect that boy for 3 or 4 days at most. Beyond that, Alice sensed Alka would crack and say something like, "You could take care of this, Alice."
Will I wait till then, or will I lose my patience first? Whichever comes first, the end result will be the same.
Alice Kwanji would suffer no more irritations. And protecting the witness, let alone allowing them to live in her mansion, was an indignity. Alice looked up, fascinated by the dense fog that had crawled into the foyer. Above the fireplace was a single mirror. Roughly 3 feet in diameter, it decorated the wall where one might find a painting. Its surface was faintly clouded and vaguely reflected the foyer's appearance.
This is what I get for losing the snark. I suppose that means the mirror is out of commission for the time being.
The little bird joyfully chirped at its master's mumbling. The bird attempted to imply that there was no need for her to lift a finger, not if the nuisance would fall into the mirror of its own accord. Or
Oh,
perhaps, had the little bird had not sang, Alice would have come to the same conclusion.
eh.
For some reason, she recalled an earlier conversation.
How about now? Still think this is the safest option?
In response to her question, the boy inside the bottle shrugged his shoulders and answered. From his perspective, the city and the mansion were no different. It seemed that having just moved from the countryside, everything was something he had never seen before.
I'm not proud of it, but I still have trouble writing, and the city rules are so complicated that I don't even know right from wrong.
More than embarrassment, his voice was full of resentment. He was angry about something, though Alice could not tell what. But
That's why, no matter where I go, I'm always in danger. It may be an exaggeration, but even walking down the street or talking to someone makes me anxious. No matter where I am, there's no guarantee I'll make it out. But here, there's someone that might show concern for a person like me. Sure, my reasoning is a little messed up, but I've never known such luxury.
her eyes welled up ever so slightly. Those soft words were something she could not brush off, because they made sense to her. Given that everything in the city was a danger to him, nothing had changed after coming to the mansion. In reality, he had no reason to fear this place in particular. If anything was different from the outside, it would be that someone here was his ally. With that view, he had been entirely sincere. His explanation hadn't contained any flattery towards Alice Kwanji, more pandering to Al Kawasaki. He was simply speaking from the heart.
I like it here.
Perhaps having him wander into the mirror is more trouble than it's worth right now. I want to dedicate the mirror's function to searching for intruders, so if it looks like he's going to be swallowed up by it, do stop him, will you?
The bird shook its feathers at her strange instruction. Alice looked away from the mirror and continued her walk. The bird chirped in protest.
It's your job, Robin. At least get that right, would you?
Leaving the bird with that icy retort, she vanished into the west wing. All that remained was the moonlight. And the little bird, trembling at a perilous prospect of unprecedented change.
Now you can see how close to danger Sojiro was earlier.
True.
Yeah?
Are you for real?
Save.
Save.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, let's have Nancy do the narration this time. And if Aoko shows up, we'll have you voice her too. I'll voice Alice if she shows up. And guess who you're going to voice?
Dude,
Tanya.
the Robin!
Yeah,
The
exactly.
Robin!
Yeah, I get it.
That would
Hope
be
your
actually pretty
Scottish
funny.
accent's up.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Can you do a Scottish accent?
It'll take a while to like settle into a Scottish accent.
I can only do it if I'm yelling.
That's very on par for Scottish.
Very true.
Once, long ago, I saw a beautiful bird fly overhead. Round and round it circled the distant blue sky. How high it flew in this era when humans, not birds, reigned supreme. And yet the bird was completely uninterested in humanity's endless desire for expansion, our creation of even higher homes, or the smoke bellowing from industry's chimneys. The sky extends further than the eye can see. It belongs to no one, not now, not then. The bird was a truly noble creature, flapping its wings powerfully across the wild ancient sky. Until the sudden sound of cold iron.
You laugh.
Sorry, just
That's fucked up.
A wing is shot, its symmetry gone forever. Cruel and tragic, its body plummets downwards. Not knowing its fate, the bird frantically beats its wings till the very end. One moment soaring with eyes to the sky, the next crashing down to the dry, hardened earth. This was the dream I saw. No matter how much I thought about it, its details remain clouded. What did that bird look like, for instance?
let's see. Teacher, I'll do this. All right, class dismissed. Oh, it's this dude.
Oh boy!
Well, I'm keeping up with the voice now.
That's everything that
God.
will be on the test. Please don't share it with the other classes. You're the only ones I'm telling. Think of it as homeroom bonus. Remember, if this class gets the highest scores, you can brag about it to all the other classes.
Mr. Yamashiro chuckled as he finished. This was typical of the kind teacher responsible for Year 2 Class C, the master at relaxing his pupils.
Be this student, Kanye.
I think you got it. I think you got that backwards, Mr. Yamashiro. You're the one who's after bragging rights.
Go for this one, Nancy.
Yeah, then he can finally get Mr. Satonaka off his back. We know he's been making fun of you all semester for a bad grade, sir.
Kanye.
Yeah, we're like total washouts. Except for our totally excellent sports skills.
Okay, all right.
Please, though it might not mean much coming from me, high school is more about than just your test scores. Teachers don't really care that much about your grades, you know. Even if you fail, it's not like anything bad will happen to us. But there is one student who does bother me.
I think you know who I'm talking about. You chose to represent the entire student body. A monumentally awful decision.
Jesus.
She makes a daily point to threaten to report me to the Board of Education, claiming my students' grades are the result of poor instruction rather than lack of studying. She said if students' score don't improve, she'd come supervise my classes herself. What kind of student even says such a thing?
The warm atmosphere in the room suddenly fell below freezing. The students of Class C now knew who their true enemy was.
Kanye.
Right. I forgot Mr. Yamashiro was a student body advisor.
Nancy.
The student president managed to revive the cheer squad, so I wouldn't be surprised if she can force a teacher out of their job, too.
Kanye, do this guy.
Yeah, I heard that I heard that she can guess teachers' ages with 100% accuracy. I can't believe she's the same age as us. I mean, look at her compared to the girls in our class. Her boobs are way bigger.
Dude.
Thanks,
how you
man.
I love how you
Dude.
said that with no hesitation.
Oh my God! Please get Kinomi moved to Class A, sir. It's hard enough with a class full of apes, but he is such a pig!
I feel like that came from the heart, Nancy.
Yeah.
All voice acting has to come from the heart. That's the real answer.
Go ahead, Kanye.
Is this like some random guy?
Probably.
Yeah. But you know, the girl doesn't even get grades for a Class A member. Kinda middle of the pack, right?
Go ahead.
That's the point, dumbass. She doesn't need to go to cram school. She's on the student council and sometimes does a job or two. It'd be heinous if she got awesome grades too.
Kanye?
Totally. We should leave the good grades to the vice president.
Alright, that's enough gossiping, everyone. Not nice to talk about people behind their backs. In any case, good luck with your studies. Remember, if your grades don't improve, then winter vacation gets cancelled. Oh, and Shizuki.
Could I have a word with you before you go?
Mr. Yamashiro gathered his things and beckoned for Sojiro to join him in the hallway. There were no other students to be seen, despite it being break time between classes. That's suspicious.
Also, is it just me, or does this hallway just make you think of a church? Because it makes me
Yeah.
think of one.
I see the vibes.
I mean, it is an older building, but
True.
yeah, just I can't unsee like the church-esque
The lack of
aesthetic.
I guess the lack of modernicity. That's
There's
a
no
word.
lockers. That's
Or, like,
it.
Yeah, there's no lockers. Well, besides that, and also kind of no windows.
Yeah, that too.
It kind of makes sense, though, architecturally. There wouldn't be room for windows because all the windows are in the classrooms.
Yeah,
True.
and I
But
guess
aren't lockers all near the entrance downstairs?
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, that's more of a
High
like
school
American
thing.
high school
Like,
thing.
Yeah. Voices were audible in the distance, but the hall itself felt strangely quiet and calm. Perhaps it was due to the sense of confinement created by the lack of windows.
Haha.
Usually, students spent their breaks either in their classrooms or on the veranda.
What is it, sir?
Oh, nothing major. Sorry to bring this up right before exams, but I've been meaning to ask. How's everything going with school? You settling in all right?
Though this level of concern from a teacher startled him, Sojiro felt reassured. It was only natural. After having had to deal with such difficult personalities lately, Mr. Yamashiro's trivial questions were refreshing.
Yes. I think I understand the basics of school life for now. And I made friends too.
Good.
Friends.
Glad to hear it. Students in my class tend to mouth off, so don't take them too seriously. I'm glad you're able to fit in.
Sojiro's eyes shone brightly in appreciation. In Aoko's words, Mr. Yamashiro was a brutish, forgettable, downright detestable man who did not even deserve the title of teacher, but Sojiro found him considerate in his own way.
Take it easy with your part-time jobs. We give students a lot of time off before exams, but don't push yourself too hard. And if you have trouble with exams, just ask the other students for help. There's no need to suffer in silence. If this school has anything, it's plenty of people to talk to.
With a wave of his hand, Mr. Yamashiro was gone. The pure-hearted Sojiro gave him a solemn nod as if to say he accepted the advice of his so-called forgettable teacher, and went back to his classroom. And then...
Come again? You want my advice about girls?
Sojiro had not wasted a moment in putting Mr. Yamashiro's advice into practice.
I'm so sorry. I forgot how dumb you are.
Yeah, it's like I've hit a wall. I thought about it and thought about it, but realized I'm no good at figuring them out.
Sojiro
Hmm.
averted his eyes out of shame over his lack of insight.
You could have fooled me. I thought you were a man with the ladies. Well, you came to the right guy. Follow me.
And this is where I keep my porn stash in my locker.
Kinomi, this is gross.
Shocked as he was, Kinomi grabbed Sojiro by the shoulder and pulled him over to the wall. Kinomi had nearly burst out laughing when Sojiro, with a straight face, had admitted his difficulty with girls, but he realized it was the first time Sojiro had ever turned to him for advice. Sojiro was always able to break down any task at his part-time jobs into bite-sized pieces, but he was clearly struggling with a different problem now. This was going to take some serious effort.
Okay, give it to me straight, pal. How big?
I love how you cut off at the end.
Oh. I didn't screw up yet, but it might happen soon.
I just realized I think that is probably the rarest appearance of Sojiro we've ever seen, Kanye. I don't think
True.
I've ever seen it anywhere else.
Looks so sad. Let's say a girl walked into the Mad Bear, who's as prickly as a porcupine. She doesn't like me, she wants to leave, but I don't want to.
Sojiro explained that he couldn't just quit his part-time job at the restaurant, he needed the money. Kinomi grunted a few times to indicate he was still following Sojiro's story.
So, like, you want the girl to split? No, I want her to be okay with me working there. Because the thing is, I sort of don't not like her.
Sojiro furrowed his brow. Kinomi could not help but laugh at his friend's lack of manly resolve in his answer. Girls were the one area where Hosuke's skill and experience were triple those of Sojiro.
Haha, now I see. That's just the art of flirting, man. You want to get along with her, right?
Sojiro wasn't sure how to respond. He nodded slowly without really understanding the implication of what Kinomi had said.
But I don't know what to do. How can I get along with girls my age? You talk to girls in our class all of the time. Honestly, you make all the other guys look bad. You're a natural at it. Just keep being your usual clueless self, and I'm sure you'll be fine. Being raised in the mountains makes you Mr. Mysterious. You gotta use that unique identity to your advantage. Really, I don't think being unusual is a good thing, though. Like, how do you talk to someone who hates your guts? People in class are nice, but I'm dealing with a thorny beast here. Or maybe a hedgehog is a better metaphor? Don't be a chicken, man. You know what they say, a tiny thorn can't stop a lion. She'll come around.
Sojiro's brows sunk deeper still.
All these abstract metaphors are too much for me.
He needed more concrete material to work with.
Come on, dude. You have to put in the work to get on a girl's good side. First, ask about her hobbies and stuff she likes, then go on from there. Think about what she wants, not what you want. You gotta blitz them from where they're weak, as they say. You mean, don't be too direct? You got it. And then comes the most important part. Bribery. You gotta shower her with presents. If the supply matches the demand, she'll accept your gift even if she don't like you. Then you've got her. She'll feel like she owes you one.
I hate to say this, Kanye, but you are doing really well as Kinomi.
He's really got that. He's really got that Negan manual down, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinomi then proclaimed with an odd sense of pride that this approach had resulted in only failure for him.
I get no bitches, man. There's just one problem, Kinomi. I get that girls like being taken out to dinner, but you can't afford it. I know. I got you covered. I'm gonna lay you on a sweet little secret and an easy way to get you some cold hard dough. Huh?
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 Huh? They slid from the side of the classroom deeper to one corner. God, that's so suspicious.
It is. Oh, I don't think I ever told you guys, but there was a person who had been watching all of the VODs,
Mm-hmm.
and they came in first time messenger or first time message,
Yo.
and they were saying, "Oh, what's going on with the VODs?" Because I had forgotten to highlight it.
Oh.
This is the person. Hi, Aldor.
Hi!
Welcome to the stream.
Welcome!
Thanks
You made
for
it
watching. man.
live.
You did it.
Really though, thank you for always watching them. It makes me happy to know that there's someone out there that's actually enjoying these streams.
Real as fuck.
I mean, you guys are great at what you do, so it's a pleasure for me too to have you guys on.
Oh, you.
And shut up and keep reading.
Punched you in the throat. Aw, you.
To in front of the lockers where no one ever stayed for long.
I just have to say, I could say that easily to Kanye, but I can't say that to Nancy.
What? What?
Being so mean.
Wow.
Wow. It would be days before Sojiro realized the suggestion he was receiving was of the illegitimate kind, the kind he should not have shared with anyone. And that's where they cut away?
That's crazy.
It's an extra story that you can read later. They don't include it in like the main story that you actually read, which is pretty funny.
Oh my god, I can't wait to see what kind of illegitimate advice he's giving people.
Mm.
As the guy who gets 0 girls and is being
True.
asked for advice about girls.
Yeah, it fit.
The shoe fit, yo. The shoe fit. That night, dinner at the mansion was a feast of bread. Soft slices lay stacked in the center of the table, surrounded by variously colored jams.
I'm a sucker for jams.
Me too. In a bowl was salad, mainly lettuce, with a small plate of unevenly cut ham. Sojiro may have had no frame of reference for what an average family dinner should be, but he could tell that this was most certainly not normal. In truth, it was a first-rate case of laziness.
Hell yeah, we get our first girl failure dinner right here.
Average girl dinner.
We're out of chocolate spread. Didn't I tell you to buy some more, Alice?
I've been locked away in my room all day. And more importantly, you're the one that eats that stuff, so you should buy it. For these 2 girls, however, this dinner seemed to be completely normal. Oh god, he's gonna become the house chef, isn't he? It'll work. That would be like a winning combination. They both
average
don't.
male type moon protagonist be like, I have to cook these girls dinner.
But I mean, it's a winning combo. Neither of them can cook, and then they'll like the fact that he can.
True.
But he just works at the restaurant. I don't think he ever cooks. And he's a mountain. What do mountain people?
I know, you never know.
I don't know. I withhold judgment. Wait, let's see how this plays out. They had a system of irregularly taking turns being in charge of meals, and tonight was Alice's turn. Normally, she would spend as little time and effort as possible, only truly applying herself when there was something to celebrate. Of course, Sojiro was none the wiser to Alice's unique approach to food preparation. For him, it was a plain, lackluster meal.
For Sojiro to say that, that is really plain.
And when it came to dinner, not saying anything to each other was another staple of their meals. The sounds of cutlery, the scraping of chairs, and the tick-tock of the clock were the only things to be heard in the sunroom.
God.
Sojiro himself had already eaten. At this moment, he was watching the goings-on from the drawing room.
Your part-time job starts at 9, right, Sojiro? I'll see you later then. Don't mind us.
Okay. I'll get going then.
Sojiro donned his coat with a goodbye nod. When Sojiro glanced again at the sunroom, he momentarily locked eyes with Alice, or so he imagined.
Ooh.
Huh?
Huh? She had been ignoring him all day. And not just refusing to talk to him, she had avoided him so much as not to look at him at all today until this very moment. He could understand if he was annoying her as an outsider in the mansion, but he felt no animosity in her gaze just now.
Maybe she was just glancing in the general direction of the drawing room.
Yes, the general direction.
Mm-hmm.
Sojiro looked nervously at his surroundings for a moment before heading to the foyer. Alice only let her gaze return to normal when she was completely sure he was gone.
So much drama.
Alco was appalled by Alice's brazen display. So much so, her immaculate veneer of apathy crumbled. What's that, Alco? Still upset over tonight's lack of chocolate?
You are nailing that voice and her cold stare just perfect. My goodness.
Yeah. I can't help it. The visuals really push it that way.
It's definitely helping, and it matches.
Thank you.
I would be, but I'm so over expecting other people to pull their weight. No, what I can't stand is your attitude. It's pretty sissy of you to pretend to ignore him while watching his every move. Could you be any more obvious with such a cheap trap?
I was not watching his every move. I could care less what he does. I couldn't care less. And mind how you use the word sissy. It reeks of sexism. Next time, just say you're a hypocrite, okay?
Well, look who suddenly found a soapbox.
So progressive, my girl.
Yeah, so progressive, wow. Choosing not to rise to her roommate's jibe. I'm trying to... I don't actually see that word used that often. It
I
threw me
never
off.
see this. I see jive.
Yeah.
The V, but
Or
jive?
rib.
Yeah. Cut of the person's rib. If you're English.
If you're getting ribbed by your friends. You're getting mocked.
Yeah, it
Choosing not to rise to her roommate's jibe. Alice resumed eating. Aoko tore off pieces of bread and then ate them, one by one, anger still visible on her face.
see. Okay. Forget whatever issues you and me have for a minute, and take some advice from someone who knows a thing or two about messing with that boy. Maybe we need to cut him some slack. Hypothetically, let's say it turns out that he's a mage too. Then would you be okay with him living here?
Sure, but not for his benefit. I couldn't think of a more fitting punishment for you and I'd for not recognizing his abilities sooner. So yes, hypothetically speaking, I would. But we can burn that bridge when we come to it. But until then, perhaps I should accept his presence here. Perhaps not. I reserve the right to have whims of my own.
Then we're agreed. You can keep your chilly distance out of duty to me or personal pride, but if he shows a sign of improving, then maybe.
Dream on. It doesn't matter what he does, he'll never change. As you very well know. Alice had never been the type to let her guard down around others. The young witch despised humans, having recreated so many of their objects in fairy tales.
You can't use being a witch as an excuse for every personal issue you have. Yet another example of you being sissy, if you ask me. It's fine if you dislike him, just come out and act like it. Stop trying to have it both ways.
And what's that supposed to mean?
That, if you want to ignore him, then ignore him for real. You're fortifying the castle walls while leaving the front gate wide open, waiting for him to make the horrible mistake of exactly what you're urging him to do. It's gross to watch. If you don't want him to come inside, then shut the damn door already.
I'm sorry, Aoko, you've lost me. Say that again, in plain English? Alice seemed unable to grasp Aoko's metaphor. Meanwhile, Aoko had had it up to here with her roommate's lack of self-awareness and was starting to lose her cool.
If you really don't care, then quit worrying so much about him. If he notices you gogging at him, he might just get the wrong idea. He's
On your face.
probably thinking, Alice looked like she wanted to patch things up. Maybe I should go stop by her room. Or even worse.
You really think so?
Yes! If it were me you doing that too, I'd be dragging you out back and smacking you senseless, bitch.
Very well. I'll be more careful. It's not like I want to talk to him anyway. And for the record, I didn't look at him exactly, only at his arms and legs.
What a child.
Oh my god. Alice!
And why in the world would you look at his arms and legs?
Because of what happened the other night, though I doubt he even remembers. I was thinking about it, and it just happened to glance over at his arms and legs.
You mean at the amusement park? I don't remember him doing anything special.
Alice's expression soured. She still felt the sting of her defeat. You saw the way he flew Finally. You saw the way he flew through the air, didn't you? Off the track, straight at my dumpty?
Sure, you were raving about how he flew a whole couple of feet.
Aoko had not actually seen it in person, luckily. All she knew was that the spell she'd placed on Sojiro was part of the reason he survived that jump of death. Alice, on the other hand, had observed the whole scene from the clock tower. It had only lasted an instant, but it had burned itself into her mind's eye. More than when her precious moon had fallen at Aoko's hands. And Flatsnark had come tumbling down.
Honestly, I wouldn't blame her. Seeing just a normal human just jumping off the roller coaster onto the Dumpty like that, I would
Yeah,
be like,
my
bro.
running down the roller coaster probably like more than like 100 miles per hour, and then jumping off.
Yeah, seriously, God, nerves of steel right there. So that's it. You want to get back at him for what happened to Dumpty, do you?
Dumpty's destruction was purely business. I feel no need for retaliation. I was just intrigued to observe the movement of a human body.
That sounds so wrong, Alice.
Little creepy. As it goes, for someone with as little human interaction as Alice, Sojiro's leap must have appeared quite remarkable. Particularly because his legs were orders of magnitude less capable than those of an animal in the forest. And yet, even with such feeble legs, with those meek arms of his, he managed to fly through the open air like a bird. To her, it was akin to the feeling city folk get when they see a wild creature in its natural habitat. Forget I mentioned it. I just hope I can witness that again someday. And when I say human, I'm not referring to him.
I see. It was novel for you. Makes sense considering most of your employees have non-human forms.
Aoko sighed and released the tension from her shoulders. She was disappointed to discover that Alice's behavior stemmed from simple curiosity, like that of a child with a new toy. And Alice was in no position to take issue with her reaction. And how could she? She was not entirely sure what it was that she herself was feeling. Ah, fellow lack of introspection.
I'll make dinner tomorrow. Another meal like this before exams is going to make it impossible to study.
No complaints from me. I certainly wouldn't mind the free time. I love how Sojiro described dinner as an exercise of pure laziness. Like, ouch, Alice. Oof.
Damn.
Even noted the fact that the ham was unevenly cut. So good. Oh man. Night came and went in the mansion. For better or for worse, the disturbances caused by the foreign invader had not yet caused the kettle to boil over.
All right, we'll switch it up again. I will go ahead and narrate. I think I wanted to comment on this. I think it's kind of funny and interesting how you have to like slowly ease in and out of your accents. Because I hear the English going into the narration and then the American accent going into the English. It's almost like there's
Sometimes,
a cool down.
yeah, a little bit. Like, sometimes, especially when I'm more tired, it's a little bit harder. And to be fair, when you're doing voice acting, you're doing one role.
Mm,
You're not flip-flopping back and forth between like two roles,
yeah, that's
which
fair.
I guess can happen. I've known voice actors who are two main characters in a show and they have to like do the flip-flop and it is wild.
That is wild, especially if the voices are different enough to where you have to like hit the brakes really hard.
You have to be really on the ball and yeah, like you just have to be like your game is on and you are on it and you're like fully aware of every orchestration you need to be to pull off a script. Most of the time, if that's what's going to happen, you get your script a little bit ahead of time so you have a bit of time to digest it. But if you're just being handed cold read, like, this is going to go as well as it's going to go, like, you really don't know how well it's going to go. It's
Mm.
just, it's going to happen and it could be great or it could be kind of lackluster.
I
But
can
yeah,
only imagine.
it's definitely like I really like cold reads, but I like cold reads where I'm not doing like a ton of different people all at once, which is why it's fun to do it like this because we're always changing it up.
Yeah, and there's no like stakes at hand, right? Like you don't have to worry like not getting the role anymore or getting serious criticism. It's all fun here. At least I hope it's fun for
Mhm.
you guys.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
Actually,
for
speaking of
sure.
which, there hasn't been any Kanye voice, so I'm not going to do the narration. You do it, Kanye, so that
Okay.
I can watch. That's why I get you guys here. Anyway,
The
go ahead and lead us in.
next morning at 6:30, as sunlight spread out across the sky, Zojiro walked to school with Alco in the chilly morning air.
You go ahead and be Alco this time, Nancy, if you could, please.
Okay. So try not to ever be alone in the house, okay?
It was her intention to keep Zojiro safe until he left the mansion. Nonetheless,
God, I'm sleepy. What's the deal with going to school so early?
I'll go ahead with Sojiro. I'm
okay,
not. I have to pull a 30-minute shift helping with deliveries.
his work ethic was a little too strong for a student entering finals.
Are you sure you're not pushing yourself too hard, Awazaki? You don't need to keep tabs on me, you know?
Oh, don't you worry. I'll catch up on some sleep in the student council's room when we're done. I promise I'd walk you as far as the front gate and I plan to stick to it.
But internally, our Alka was worried. What traps did her roommate have in store for him? She could not imagine Alice had planned anything to go down in the woods, but she wanted to be safer than sorry. The least she can do was accompany Sojiro to school. That much she was firmly committed to. Any traps that presented themselves could be dealt with on the spot. Well, not dealt with so much as destroyed, since that was Alka's forte, but that would be enough to keep him safe for the time being.
As for when you get out of school, all we can do is hope that Alice is short on free time today.
Uh, okay.
If Alice was willing to put all her energy into a new trap after the first had failed, then they were as good as dead anyway. But Alka would cross that road when she came to it. It all depended on how Alice's dislike of Sojiro really went, how deep. It would have to be enough to make her abandon her pride as a witch, something she had protected fervently until now. If that were the case, Alka knew she would never be able to keep him safe. The moment 24/7 protection became necessary was the moment she had failed. Her character led her to focus on what she could do in the here and now and ignore the rest. And this current plan of hers was her best attempt at doing right by everyone. They left behind the Kwanji estate, and the two remained together until the residential area at the bottom area of the hill. Ralco glanced casually at Sojiro.
So, any thoughts?
Surprisingly, Sojiro saw through her harmless question and sensed the bigger issue. How was he going to win Alice over? In fact, he had been thinking about that very question. According to his friend, there were three basic approaches he could take.
If it's Konomi, you know who's voicing
Oh
it.
god.
One was the roundabout approach. This way takes the longest, but it's the most natural. Humans love it when you pay attention to the things they like, just as friends do. In other words, instead of focusing on the person one wishes to win over, one should focus on their interests. It was a surprisingly mature opinion coming from Kinomi. Unfortunately, Sojiro had no idea what sort of things Alice liked. Seemed very fond of the mention, but what did he do? Clean it for her? He sensed that would have a reverse. He had a distinct feeling she would not want him touching what was precious to her. The second approach was take the inner track. It's the fastest way to get someone to fall for you. When you can't coast on your natural good looks and charm, that's what your wall is for. You know what I'm talking about. Gifts. Quick and dirty strategy. The assassin strike. Manipulate someone's feelings with an expensive gift. Sojiro, this sounded like his best chance. The approach was easy for him to grasp, and he appreciated its simplicity. However, he had the same concerns as with the first approach. A step was missing, and without the step, the plan was bound to fail. Yeah, the only other option is, well, I guess you could call it wait and see. I don't fully understand it myself, but they say if you try too hard, your plan's bound to backfire. Like, you don't ever want a girl to have a sudden epiphany of, oh, now I love him. It's better that it dawns on her after you hung out together for a while. Like, wait, I think I like him. Though Sojiro did not quite grasp the details, he understood the basic idea. Don't press your luck. He knew that much was good advice. He would have to try extremely hard to get on Alice's good side. He could tell it would be a long process to get there. Sojiro recalled the time he had wandered inside a fox's territory in the mountains. He had left it some food on the ground for the fox, and then it never bothered him again. What was considered goodwill and kindness varies from person to person. But if there is enough goodwill from one side, regardless of whether that goodwill is reciprocated, the other side will eventually start to feel an obligation to do so. That was key.
It's okay. I'll think of something. For now, I can only do what I can do. Don't worry. I've taken your counsel to heart, Awazaki.
Sojiro seemed ready to face things head on. His answer did little to reassure Alko. However, she found herself more concerned about his safety than ever before.
Understandable, honestly.
Yeah.
Understandable. You're looking for a broom like the ones at school? Oh, who's this?
Points?
Who?
Oopie! That's Oop!
Alright, let's switch it up. Okay. I'll go ahead and do the narration. You go ahead, be Sojiro, Kanye, and you be the little girl, Nancy.
How little are we talking?
She's about at chest height of Sojiro, and she's got a bit of a kind of nonchalant attitude. Like,
Yeah, okay. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, the cheaper the better.
Don't you live in an apartment? Who needs a broom in an apartment?
Well, you know, I've been wanting to clean things up a little. I could use some trash bags too.
Aren't you supposed to be broke or something? Whatever. Want to use my broom then? I'll lend it to you if you want.
Actually, I need it for longer than one day, so maybe it's best I buy my own. I mean, I always wanted my own broom. Brooms are nice to have around, you know?
what is this
What
guy,
a
man?
thing to say.
I know.
What a thing to say.
Sojiro was on his way home from his part-time job after school. It was 4 in the afternoon, 2 hours earlier than his part-time job would have normally ended. The Mad Bear's head chef had gotten into trouble with the accountant for making a student work the day before exams. Thus, Sojiro's boss had tearfully sent him home early. And that is when it happened. The interruption to his standard schedule must have been just the shock he needed. Normally, he would meet up with Aoko after she was done with student council affairs and go home with her. However, today, Sojiro was asking the other students who worked at the same place if they knew any shops in the area where he could buy a broom.
God, what's wrong with you? People from the countryside are like so weird. Anyway, you know that nasty ramen place near school? Just go to the end of that street and there's a hardware store called Okita. It's way cheaper than the home supply store to the west of the station, as long as they have what you want, anyway. Use my bicycle if you want, I don't care. I won't need it until exams are over anyway.
Sojiro's eyes lit up as if he had met his savior. But biking uphill to the mansion, that alone with a package to carry, was not a pretty thought.
I appreciate the offer, but I'll pass. See you at school tomorrow.
Saying farewell to his coworkers, he headed. Okay, that was weird. Saying farewell to his coworkers. Coworkers? There's only one. To his coworker.
Yeah, but also if she's a coworker, she's got to be at least 16, right?
Yeah.
I think she's either the same age or a little older than him.
Wow. I misread that. A lot.
Oops.
Whoops.
Saying farewell to his coworkers, he headed to the hardware store. He needed a cheap and sturdy bamboo broom and a large dustpan to go with it. If possible, a pushcart and stick for a splint would have been nice too. As it happened, Sojiro wanted quite a few things. Alright, returning to Kanye doing the narration.
Alice returned to her work after waking from her nap. The Kwanji estate had an annex that housed a library. The library was filled with books handed down to her from her mother, so it was Alice's territory such that even Alco dared not to enter. The mansion was a witch's abode left behind by the times. The library was a fairy tale quarters, lost to the ages. It was a natural sanctuary for the young witch who could command employees to do her bidding. She relied on her memory to recall the location of each book on the many shelves. And then she saw it. Upon raising her head, she was met with the unusual of sights. Her elegant eyebrows bristled in distaste. From that moment on, she failed to accomplish anything she had planned for that day. She was instead forced to stare at a strange sight outside her window, eyebrows fixed in that position until the sunset.
Pretty.
It's a really smooth
Yeah.
transition. Like, the background art of this game is seriously just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Ah, well. Moving into the grand mansion on the hill had not brought any major changes to Sojo's day-to-day schedule. He woke up, went to his part-time job, ate breakfast, and went to school. Classes came and went, still strange and new, broken up by rare and brief moments of rest until the school day ended. He left school, went to his part-time job, slept, woke up, studied for exams. Modest life for a modest young man, continuing every day in the same fashion despite his best efforts to change his fortune. But nothing ever really changes. Whether Alka was by his side in the mansion, as was frequently the case, or whether Alice was making him drink some potions she prepared before going to bed. The former was an attempt by Alka to make him feel better. The latter was an attempt to keep him safe, even if he did not fully appreciate it. Then, one day, a day like any other, while Sojo was pouring himself some tea as he worried over the lack of change in his life.
This is Alice. Could you go for it, Nancy?
Oh, by the way.
At least I'm pretty sure it's Alice.
His relationship with Alice was the same as ever, but there was one major change this morning. He was drinking black tea instead of green. Though there were all sorts of different types of tea to be found in the kitchen, a newcomer to the world of tea like Sojiro could not tell one of them from the next. Naturally, his tea-making skills were limited to tea bags, one of which he placed in his cup before returning to the dining table. Alice and Alka were already seated. The two were eating in silence. In this household, it was everyone for themselves when it came to breakfast. The diplomatic description of their breakfast would be simple. The more accurate description would be 2 slices of stale bread prepared in seconds.
Oh boy.
Alco exchanged a word or two with Alice, took a sip of tea, and stood up from her seat. Since it was winter break for the high schooler Alice, she returned to her room after eating as she normally did, while Alco headed to the front door, shoes in handy, ready for school. After hurriedly clearing the table, Sojo rushed out the door after Alco. Together they walked down the long hill in the direction of school. They spent 3 days following this very simple routine.
This is Aoko. Nancy, could you do Aoko this time?
So, any word on you know who?
School had ended and the evening had arrived. Buttered bread roll in one hand, Alice replied with a simple, silent shake of her head.
Thought so. The enemy must be considering their next move, too. Have you figured out where the mage is?
Her response was exactly the same. Without showing the slightest sign of dejection, she continued to chew on the roll and took a stab at her salad.
Okay then. I'll help you once exams are over if you can manage on your own till then. I have to help that idiot study, so my schedule's pretty warped.
Alice's face grew dour, as if she had something to get off her chest.
Don't give me that look. You're on winter break. You can spend all day working on it, can't you?
Alice was indeed on vacation and could spend all day, every day, on her work as a mage. Yet she had spent the past few days holed up in the library instead. She was hardly devoting herself to dealing with the challenger, as Alka put it.
Alice, are you listening?
I'll go ahead and take over for Alice.
Have fun.
Yes, I'll get to work on it tonight.
Sighing, she stood up.
Thank God that's it.
It was bothering Alice, and what was it she wanted to say? What she had been doing only for 2 hours earlier. The young witch took her leave. The young witch took her leave for the breakfast table without offering a single clue.
What is it you guys think that she... Well, I know Kanye knows. But what do you think it was that she was doing?
It's gotta have something to do with all the weird stuff she's been making him drink.
You're on the right track. Alright, let's see if it reveals that. Go ahead, Kanye.
Misaki High was a private school, and such as winter break started earlier than public schools. The end of term ceremony was in mid-December, followed by a brief respite before the next term began. Of course, that was if and only if they overcame the classic obstacle lying between them and the extended break from school. Final exams. The radio continued its broadcast late into the night. A thermos of hot tea eliminated the need to venture down to the kitchen.
When was the last time either of you have listened to the radio? I just realized.
God, oh God, years.
I don't think
Almost
even
a
my
decade.
parents listen to the radio anymore.
Okay, I have a cheater answer though. I listen to the news when I'm in the car and I'm stuck in traffic. That's it. And I
That's
don't
fair.
drive very much anymore, so not often.
That's fair. I think
That's fair.
maybe I should actually start doing that every time I drop to the office.
The reason I do it is because I don't have time to keep up with the news anymore, and I would rather have someone tell me the news while I'm driving.
Yeah, honestly, I prefer it that way too. Really. Maybe that's how we always kind of actually did it for the longest time. Until my mother started watching CNN.
Oh.
Mm. An electric blanket kept away the winter cold. and a crab-shaped pastry staved off any dinner-time hunger. These were the lengths Alco had gone to. She needed to ensure that every aspect of her surroundings helped her pull a successful all-nighter.
Oh, jeez.
Also, I could appreciate how, like, despite it being like a later time in this timeline, that they didn't go for like the stereotypical like oh gosh, I'm like forgetting the term, but instead of going with the typical like heated table that you almost see in every like Japanese
Oh,
setting.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it reflects Aoko's personality really well, I think.
Hmm.
The kotatsu table?
Kotatsu,
Yeah,
that's
the
it.
kotatsu.
Thank you.
Jill
You're
even
like-
had one. There was a
Yes.
whole big thing about her having a kotatsu.
True.
Even Dana was like, you know what it is?
It's like, yeah, I do, you big weeb. Congrats on surviving the first day of exams. Are you ready to leave your old study habits behind and be reborn as a new student?
Sojiro nodded earnestly. Upon returning from work, he encountered not the maid she expected, but the demon school student council president, Aozaki. Half a day earlier. The first day of exams were over, and Sojiro was about to head back to the mansion where he hoped to put his plan into practice. When?
I love how well that lined up with the way you read. When?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm so glad I timed that.
Oh my god. Especially what she's about to say. Tonight, I'm holding you prisoner. Your grades are simply unacceptable. Cancel your shift and any other plans you have, like you have plans.
A cold, blue grin greeted him in the hallway. Clenched in her fist was Sojiro's exam paper. Mr. Yamashiro had no doubt said,
Go ahead, Kanye. I want to hear your Yamashiro.
"You only just transferred. Can't expect miracles."
Okay.
But she had snatched the exam out of the teacher's hands the minute he tried to show her. That was how Sojiro had ended up in Aoko's room instead of the room in the attic to which he was accustomed. Though her situation was far from normal, at the end of the day, she was an adolescent girl like any other. Naturally, she felt uncomfortable letting a boy her own age into her room. However, his grades were truly something that was called for desperate measures. That explained why her mood was even worse than normal today, and the vein of her forehead was pulsing visibly with anger.
I need to finish my own studies first. You can use that table in the meantime.
Hako turned her back to him and sat down at her favorite desk. Sojiro was left standing before a cheap-looking glass table.
Cheap looking?
I don't think it was. Yeah, there's nothing cheap looking about that, especially for the time.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm still not really used to all this. What's that blue thing over there, Aozaki?
Restless, Sojiro found his eyes drawn to the guitar propped up in the corner.
Oh my god, you wouldn't know what a guitar is.
It's thin, blue, and intense looking. It's got your name written all over it. Don't tell me it's some kind of weapon.
It's a musical instrument. I understand if you've never seen an electric one, but you must have seen an acoustic guitar in the music room. Keep talking though, and you'll soon see if it works as a weapon.
Sojiro plopped himself down into a cushion, struggling to suppress the desire to retort that it was a weapon after all. I mean, he's not wrong.
Don't play the victim. Usually you're as oblivious as an old and deaf dog. What's got you so worked up this time?
In fact, it was Aoko who was oblivious for once. For his part, Sojiro could not figure out why he felt so restless either. Suffice to say, they were both pretty clueless in this moment.
Is it the way I decorated my room? My furniture's totally different to the stuff in the drawing room, so I understand if it seems a little weird. I brought everything from home, except the bed. It's been 2 years since I moved here, but I still don't feel like me and my stuff belong in this big old house.
Though she misunderstood the real reason for Sojiro's nervousness, Alko seemed satisfied that she had resolved Sojiro's anxiety for the time being and returned to her studies. She flipped through her notes and textbooks as if fast-forwarding the tape. There was no opening for an outsider like him to intrude in our high-speed study session. Repelled by her intensity, he retreated to his table. He was at least sensitive enough to pick up on her desire to be left alone. It was a testament to Sojiro that having his needs utterly ignored was now second nature to him, to the extent that he could now happily go about his business in solitude.
Poor guy.
2 hours had passed.
2
passed.
hours later.
Then, as the clock neared 11, Alko's speed and concentration began to slip.
I'm surprised you could even keep it up for 2 hours. I can barely study for just an hour.
Dude, I will fold under like 20 minutes.
Pomodoro timer, that's exactly enough time.
Seeing his window of opportunity, Sojiro seized the moment to strike up a conversation.
Aozaki, what the hell? Aozaki, can I talk to you for a minute?
What is it?
He spoke hesitantly, not bothering to turn to face him.
Never mind, more like, what is it?
She continued to flip the pages of her textbook, albeit at a slower speed than before.
I noticed how you and Alice have been acting at dinner these past 3 days, and is it always like that?
Yes, it's normal. Do we not look normal?
No.
Look at him.
I'm not sure how to answer that. It's just, at school, people seem to enjoy eating together, so I thought it was strange that the two of you don't look like you enjoy it. And I thought it's because of, you know.
Don't worry, it's not because of you that we haven't been talking at mealtimes. We've never talked to each other during mealtimes.
Alko spoke calmly with her back still turned, seemingly unaware of what he was getting at.
Well, oh, maybe it's still Aoko.
Maybe? Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, it can get pretty tense. And here I thought you two were close friends.
She neither confirm nor deny his statement. She was, however, surprised by the disappointed tone in which he had made it.
You're not wrong. It can get tense. I can't remember how many times she's put mescaline in your drink, and yesterday she was adding rowan to your salad.
What? I don't think I know what mescaline is.
I think those are poisonous.
Mescaline is a drug that induces a psychedelic state comparable to those produced by LSD. Holy cow, what? And then
Sojiro, I'm going to drug you now. Okay.
yeah,
They didn't ask, and they did not tell him.
He's just like, okay.
Okay, whatever, man. I just live here.
And then Rowan. What is Rowan drug? No, I keep getting things about Rowan University. That's not helping me at all. What is Rowan?
Shush, dogs. Shush.
My dogs aren't barking though. No. I know.
It's dogs in my neighborhood. They're just being weird.
That's just dogs in general. Yeah, I can't figure out what the hell freaking Rowan is in this context, but okay. Anyway.
Could be Rowan the herb. Beats me what the hell she was thinking.
That's from a tree. Yeah, it's like an herb or something.
Oh.
Or something, I don't know.
Okay, yeah. There it is. No, why was this not one of the top results when I searched up just Rowan?
A bitter smile that spread across her face in reminiscence. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No. The pages of her textbook continued to turn.
Mescaline? What's that?
It's a hallucinogenic alkaloid product produced by the. Whoa, I've never seen that word before. Peyote?
Neither have
Peyote
I.
cactus? I'm assuming it's more than just your average hallucinogen if Alice is using it, though. And I'm done.
It's a crime to possess this plant. It's illegal.
Oh my gosh, really?
HS 11363. It makes it a crime to possess, cultivate, plant, harvest, dry, or process peyote.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't leave it up to. I wouldn't put it past witches in general to have like illegal substances,
I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it past Alice specifically.
especially Alice. Yeah.
Very funny, just me, just like, how'd you get that?
Yeah.
That she slammed shut her fourth textbook of the night. After having scarcely changed position the whole night, she finally turned in the chair to face him.
Now it's time to put you to work. I don't know what else I was expecting, but I still almost fainted when I saw your scores.
Her tone was light, but her gaze was as heavy as she stared down at Sojiro, seated cross-legged on the floor.
Okay, but actually, though, if you were gonna do your own studying for a while, why didn't you just let Sojiro do his own thing until now?
True.
Maybe better to keep an eye on him. Who knows?
What eye? She ignored him for the last 3 hours. Modern literature, geography, math, and electronics. If you don't up your grades over the next 2 days, your winter break is as good as gone. And that'll be more of a problem for me than you.
I disagree. I think it'll be worse. Going to school during the break would not work out for me.
Sojiro calmly corrected her.
For you! If you have to go to school over the break, what do you think will happen to me?
All she could think about it, as much as she tried not to, was Mr. Yamashiro and his annoying grin. Hey, phone.
I cannot allow any student to fail every single class. Not on my watch. If I could beat good grades out of you, I would. Lucky for you, you have extenuating circumstances, shall we say. So I'll give you a pass just this once. A good all-nighter is usually enough for me to prepare for exams, so it shouldn't take too long to get you up to speed either.
Sojiro's expression openly soured in response to her declaration. It was obvious he did not think he needed her meddling in his studies.
Oh, please. Which of us do you think is going to have the harder time of it? Me or you?
Sojiro got the feeling that it would be him, but he nodded slowly nonetheless. Then again, it would probably take more effort on her part than his, and in any case he knew there was no way to talk her out of it.
I feel. Wait, is it her or him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
There we go.
feel bad for making you do this.
Sojiro summarily bowed his head to show gratitude and willingness to work.
Good. And don't worry, I'm not a demon like they say. You can get less than average marks and still pass. You'll probably be able to go to bed by 3.
She nodded with satisfaction, pleased by his studious attitude. He had plenty of obstacles ahead of him, but that sense of humility might be enough to see him through.
Wait, what was I thinking? I can't afford to be this soft on you. Shizuki, let me be straight about this. Temporary arrangement. Wait, about this temporary arrangement. It's not every day I offer private one-on-one lessons like this. This is beyond rare, an exception among exceptions, and don't you go forgetting that.
His face.
His face.
She spoke more to convince herself than him, but his expression still darkened. It made one want to hang a side around his neck that read, "Please take me home," like an abandoned pet. Hako chided herself for being so soft.
Yeah, that previous face earlier was just the perfect example of such.
Yeah. For some reason, in that moment, she recalled that it had been raining the day they met each other.
Oh no.
Time passed like the falling grains of an hourglass.
Oh no.
Finished.
It's that early at like, oh wait, no, they're probably way past 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's winter, so the
Yeah.
sun
Yeah.
comes up later.
Alko squinted as light poured through the window and she downed another cup of tea. She had lost count of exactly how many she had drank long ago.
And it only took the whole night, eh, Aozaki?
Sojiro picked up on what she had left unspoken. Alko had used up all her pep, staying up all night, but also in shouting at him.
Oh lord.
He looked pale and uncomfortable, just as he had all night long.
I underestimated you, Sojiro Shizuki.
Come on, Aozaki. You know I get weirded out when you compliment me.
No. No. You deserve a pat on the head.
She was at the end of her rope, but she could not help a bit of pride that swelled up in her. His lack of even the most basic comprehension was shocking, even taking into account his upbringing in the wilderness. His ability was that of a middle school student, and that was being generous. Oh.
Psst.
Hello?
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 I'm
Oh.
alive.
Oh boy. Hi.
Preparing him for exams by teaching him new concepts and ideas was a waste of time.
Did you just like die for like a good half second?
Yeah, I think so. Rote memorization was his only hope for passing.
What is rote memorization? I don't think I've ever heard of that concept.
Reciting things by rote, so it is just like regurgitating things from memory.
Ah, I see. So just pretty much just repetition. There's even like a chart for it? Holy cow. Show it to me. Yeah, it's right here. Rehearsal, retrieval, recall, practice, memorization, repetition, exposure. That's one hell of a chart. But yeah, leave it up to like the Japanese culture to rely on that. Don't you die now.
Sorry. It's very dry today.
Everything he memorized could collapse like a house of cards afterwards for all she cared, so as long as he remembered for his exams. Assuming he had the capacity to be a good student in the first place, had been her mistake. It took all night to cover the content for just 4 exams. She still had not felt confident he could apply what he had so earnestly tried to memorize.
I appreciate your effort, but you just take too long to memorize new information.
Oh, come on, go easy on me. I'm used to learning things with my body, not my head.
Alko let out an exasperated sigh. Naturally, physical prowess mattered more in the mountain life than the intellect kind, but still.
Whatever. At least now you should do well enough to satisfy Yamashiro. Mind making me some more tea?
Sojiro stood up and obeyed as Alko stretched her aching back.
Speaking of tea, have you made the cold brew tea?
No, I
Yes.
didn't get a chance to today. I was so busy.
Oh,
I'm like waiting for like that perfect afternoon where I just need to make like an iced tea with it. It is going to be perfect.
Surprisingly enough, I haven't made iced tea with it. I've always just appreciated hot, but they will taste good regardless.
I think it'll be really good if I like brew it with like a third half water and then like after I let it steep extra long, add ice cubes.
Yeah, I think it'll work really well for that.
I think it just would make an excellent, excellent iced tea.
For context, Kanye, I got Nancy some tea, and it was one of them was like this citrusy kind of tea, and it is the most fragrant thing ever. Like you really could
Yeah.
smell it as soon as you get it.
Yep, I sure did. I opened the package and I was like, oh my god, this smells like magic.
Dude, we're reading something about magic. Awesome.
Gasp.
Oh my god.
Gasp.
She had apparently bought the tea bags in bulk, so there was still plenty to use.
Good grief, this is so wasteful.
He spoke under his breath so she wouldn't hear.
Oh.
Made him somehow happy to see her so tired and unfocused after the grueling all-night lessons she had given him. It did not cross his mind that the excess tea bags, far from being an indulgent purchase, were purchased intentionally to sustain them through the night. A relaxed expression came across Alko's face as she watched him, naive and peaceful as could be.
Not bad. But I should teach him how to make it from tea leaves instead. Oh, my girl!
Seeming to have overheard his not-so-inner monologue, Sojiro made to face her.
Does it really make a difference?
Oh
Brother
my
in
god.
Christ.
Oh my god. Oh god.
Yeah, big time. Although honestly, I don't really care. Alice is the one who's really picky about her tea.
I was just about to say that probably might have come from the heart, but not this last part.
Which reminds me, how are things going between you two?
That face she's making, it almost makes it seem like she's asking about like two couples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like she's asking about
Did you ask her out yet?
God.
Alko cheerfully slumped over the table, now covered with textbooks and scribble notes. Sojiro watched her with a hint of resentment in his eyes.
We only ever see each other at dinner, and you know how that goes. Honestly, I don't know why I should bother getting along with her.
Really? And here's me thinking you'd have lots of motivation to play nice. It's not like you're scared of her, for one. Plus, she's looking for any reason to kick you out. Sounds like a great reason to make nice if you ask me.
Are you sure about that? Because to me, it feels a lot like me and you before everything at the amusement park. How is that a good reason?
My point is, there's no hostility between you, right? It's a one-sided relationship, but that's not actually bad considering this is Alice we're talking about. You have a chance, as long as she doesn't find a reason to off you. She's usually quick to respond to hostility, and it's her enemies that usually end up destroying themselves.
Huh?
Huh.
And their ominous words only confused Sojiro further.
Once you understand that, it's actually pretty simple. Except,
Whether or not you can pull it off into practice was another story altogether.
Damn.
Good.
Man, sometimes I just don't catch all of the quotes.
It happens. Sounds like a difficult situation then, Awazaki.
He carried their teacups back to the table as he spoke. Alka picked up hers and took a sip as if to dispel her exhaustion.
But I think you're right. I still don't know her at all. The problem is, my knowledge of Alice Kuondri ends with her name.
He followed Aoko's lead and took a sip of his own. His cup contained not tea, but Plain hot water.
I only know one person who actually preferred to drink hot water.
Over tea or just hot water versus cold water?
I don't think she really drank tea, but over cold water, she'd always prefer hot water.
That's me. If I have to drink water, I prefer it hot.
Really?
Okay, okay, man. No judgment, but like, okay.
Yeah, interesting.
Really?
What-
Yes, but I'm also very picky about my water. Like I need it to not taste like chlorinated tap water too.
Mm,
That's fair.
I can get behind
But
that.
like, what about like cold, refreshing like water? Like, it's so hot today. I could use a glass of cold water.
Yeah, and that's very rare. Like I rarely overheat to the point where I just need to be drinking cold water.
You know what? That's fair.
I understand that I do not have the same temperature regulation problems as other people.
I just love how, like, Kanye's confusion was completely and utterly palpable. Like, this whole time he's been wanting to ask, he was like, no, that's cool, Why?
I mean, I get it, but it's also better for your vocal cords because cold water shocks them.
True.
that actually makes sense, because I'm actually here thinking from like kind of the medical perspective where like cold water is actually easier for your body to hydrate with.
Is it?
Yeah.
Where's the... Okay, now you just have to send me, like, actual science behind it.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll have to check
but
it out.
I do find that warm water is better for, like, my digestion. Like, if I have an upset stomach, it helps a lot.
Hmm.
And it helps me kind of just, like, feel better if I'm not feeling so good.
That's fair.
I can get that.
But yeah, I have a funny story about hot water, actually.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. One time, I was at the airport because I was flying down to the States to interview at a really big tech company. And I run into a friend at the airport. I'm just like, hello, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm going down to, the same city you're going to. And I was like, what? Yeah, we were actually heading down to like completely different places, but we didn't know. We just like ran into the airport in the terminal after we passed security. So we're like, oh yeah, you know what? I could really go for some breakfast. We sit down in the terminal at some random place that happens to be serving breakfast. And I ask for hot water instead of tea. I specifically said I would like some hot water. And they bring me a mug of hot water that came out of a carafe that had been holding coffee. So it just tasted like super dirty, watered down coffee.
Oh, no.
Like old coffee.
No. Oh.
I took one sip, put it down, and never drank from it again. And my friend was like, didn't you want that? Like, you're not drinking it. I'm like, I did want it, but it's not what I wanted. And he was like, I don't understand. So he just like takes the cup and he takes the sip and he's like, oh, that is foul. And then he understood. He was like, maybe you should have asked for like a tea bag so that you wouldn't have to taste this. And I was like, no, the whole point was that I wasn't supposed to have caffeine this morning. I needed hot water.
Fair.
And so I just, yeah. So now he knows forever to never get me water that tastes bad, because I will taste it right away.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, freaking any like external substances like that is much easier to taste, even more so in hot liquids, because hot liquids kind of like amplify the taste, right?
Yeah, like that's one of the reasons why people like having sake hot, because it brings out the bouquet and the flavors a little bit more. And like whiskey and scotch too. Some people like having those warm. But
I
like,
didn't realize that.
it's so awful when it's dirty old coffee water.
Oh.
Yeah, no. It's just the whole point of coffee is like it's supposed to be ultra bitter. So if you get a little bit of that into the hot water, it's like it's everything you don't want.
Yeah. I was not happy. But anyway, Nancy likes hot water, and she's picky about her hot water. Yeah.
Thoughts on milk?
Huh? What about milk?
Thoughts on it?
I don't prefer it, but I used to be able to drink it all right, as long as it's cold.
Oh, are you asking about the whole like warm milk thing?
No, just like in general. Just milk in general. Just drinking it.
Milk is okay, but I find that I can taste when milk is about to go bad, like very early.
Oh my
Mm.
god. 6 cents.
I'm the person in the house who's asked to test if something has gone bad. Whenever we go out for like Peking duck, for example, my aunt always makes me eat the first piece because I can tell if the duck has been reheated.
Hmm.
Wow, Apothecary Diaries for real.
Oh my
True.
god! Oh, Balance. You just referenced like a very good anime. Oh,
It
I
is a
loved
good
that
show.
show. It was so good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I am that person. I can taste stuff.
Well
Real.
then, what about you then, Kanye? Since you brought
Oh,
up
I
the question.
love milk, man. Nice, good glass of milk, just normally.
Mm,
That's me.
I
Usually
see.
people like disgusted or like people who like regularly drink milk.
Oh,
Kind of
really?
awesome. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's disgusting. That's cool. That's cool.
Okay, man. Okay.
I like making lattes at home, so like I'm okay with like a 1 glass of milk a day type thing. But I like lactose-free milk, so it actually lactose-free milk is like a little bit sweet, like just a little bit
Yeah.
sweet.
Hmm,
I like that a lot.
Me too.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's because they pre-add the enzymes that help break down the lactose into like regular sucrose.
I see. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah. All jokes aside, I don't actually think it's that bad. It's just not what I would care for.
Just as a beverage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't say I drink milk straight very often. Like, I definitely have it with milk or coffee or as a latte of some kind.
Mhm.
I also have non-caffeinated like latte mixes that I use. But yeah, like I don't really drink milk just straight.
I'm alone.
It's okay. That makes you unique.
Yeah.
That's your thing. I like hot water and you like milk.
And I am boring. I like the normal things.
No, yeah, normal things. Okay. We should
Balance
jump
is
you.
balance is the one normie here. Is that how this works?
Don't worry. I'm phenomenally weird in all other aspects.
Well,
yeah.
I'm actually surprised that this shocks you so much because like drinking hot water is such an Asian thing.
Is it?
It is.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's just a very Hong Kong thing. Like all of my friends, whenever we go out, we're like, "Can I get a mug of hot water?" Like that's all we ask for.
Yeah, no, maybe not in Korean culture.
Maybe not in Korean culture, but definitely Hong Kong.
Like the most I know about my culture is they love their Folgers coffee and Marlboro Light cigarettes.
Oh. Interesting.
It's a Hong Kong thing because you've never heard that of? Oh.
So in Hong Kong, when it comes to coffee, we really like mixing milk tea and coffee. We call it half and half.
Oh, I've had something like that. Actually, it's actually not bad. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's really good. Like I personally really like it. We actually call it yun yang, which is like, yin yang, but it's also just referred to in English as half and half.
Half and half. That That kind of confuses me because I know
I
half and
know.
half with like
Cream.
yeah.
Yeah. I know. It's a thing.
God, learning so many things about all of you guys. Just
Just
I-
now. On this one line about plain hot water.
okay. Now, one last thing, going back to the hot water before we finally continue on. What kind of water would you prefer to be heated up, Nancy? Since you don't typically like tap water taste, which is fair.
Filtered water? Like run it through a Brita filter, like very It doesn't have to be that fancy. It doesn't need to be like distilled water. Distilled water is kind of silly.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be okay, so very recently we had some guests from Japan and they insisted that we get them mountain spring water. That was their thing that they absolutely needed to have while they were here in Canada. Mountain spring water. We have lots of glacial water in Canada. And it is a fantastic source of water, but that makes it so that our water is very, very minerally. So it's very hard water. So it like all of the kettles here in town that have been boiling tap water taste awful because they are full of calcium and scale and lime, and you can't get away from it because that's just in the water. So if you run it through a Brita filter before you boil it, it is so much better for both your kettle and flavor wise.
Huh. Never would have thought of that. Huh.
Yeah. But mountain glacial water, very hard, very minerally. Mountain spring water, it depends on which spring, but most springs are also very like minerally or sulfury. You don't really want to be drinking sulfury water, so they go for the mineral water, and it's very minerally.
Have you had Fiji water, either of you?
Yeah, that's precisely
Like-
what they wanted.
Like once or something.
Yeah, it tasted fine. I think
don't
it was
remember.
about the same tasting as if you just ran like our regular treated water here through a Brita filter.
It's interesting because I think the thing that makes Fiji water unique to me is that it's close to being as tasteless as water could ever be, which is weird. Everyone thinks that water is tasteless. It's not, but Fiji
not.
is pretty close to that. And also, it's like it goes down smoother than any other water I've ever known in my life.
It's funny, isn't it?
Right? Like you don't think that with water because it's like it's just water.
Yeah.
How can a different kind of water that went through the mountains go down smoother? Like how? But Fiji water does that.
Yeah. But yeah, like I kind of taste-wise, I kind of equate Fiji water to just like if you took glacial water and you ran it through a filter.
I guess I just haven't had enough glacial water and filtered ones at that to understand, which I guess makes sense because that's almost exactly the same thing, right? Fiji water and what
Yeah.
you're going through.
Yeah, pretty much. So I guess like you're gonna have to just experience the water here when you visit. Like, I don't know.
Ah, I see this where this is leading to. This is your roundabout way of like, that's why you should visit Balance.
Yeah, totally. It's not because I want to take you out for steaks or nothing. I just want you to drink our water.
Yeah, that's it. Just take the water. It's like, okay, I'm booking another flight home right now. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks for turning your tap on and letting me put my mouth under it. It's cool.
Oh,
Steaks. If you really needed to visit and you wanted to go and have the local thing that was, all the rage, it's the steak. Japanese people come here for steak.
really? Huh.
Yes. Yes. They come here for steaks, they come here for mountains, and they come here for the water.
Well, I'm only going to be there for a couple people named Amber Ushi, Diofest, and perhaps even the next Devlin.
Oh, dang. I think I know
Whoa.
that one.
Yeah.
The other two are pretty famous, though.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. A really fun tangent, for sure.
It was such good conversational music.
It was the perfect music to converse over, actually, yeah.
It's true. Well, would you like me to tell you a bit about her?
Alco scrutinized him carefully as she sat. Most boys would have been captivated by her gaze in that moment.
No. I think I should ask her myself.
But he ignored her and stared straight ahead as if speaking directly to Alice herself.
Fine. You really want to do this her way, don't you? Speaking of which, what exactly did you say to her in the guest room? I know she and I have an agreement, but I've never known her to just ignore a visitor for half a day.
He thought back to that moment. He could recall only 2 or 3 words he had exchanged with Alice after awakening in the guest room. He did not recall the conversation being anything special, but he could not bring himself to casually share it with Alco now. After all...
Hey, what did you say that had such an effect on her?
Alco eagerly pressed him for answers.
Come on,
Sojiro
dude.
frowned, unsure of what to say. He did not know what the interaction had been like for Alice, but for him it felt special. Sacred, almost.
Oh my god, he's being an adolescent boy.
Oh dear.
The question was, why, and for whom, was he so concerned?
Come on, just tell me. I can tell you're just dying to let it out.
Her disconcerting smile moved even closer. Sojiro did not look like he was able to stay silent much longer. As he would eventually come to realize, Alco Awazaki had sometimes a troubling propensity
Propensity.
Yep, you got it.
to gossip.
Well, I can't tell you what we talked about. But I will say that she wasn't as flirtatious as the way you are right now. After how strict you were earlier, I didn't realize you had such a friendly side.
He stared directly into her eyes as he spoke. Alco nearly leapt out of her seat in panic. Now that he had pointed it out, she realized their bodies were practically touching.
So you noticed, huh? I was just using the most effective way to break you, of course. And besides, the moment you leave my side, all hell seems to break loose.
Alco stood up as she lashed back at him.
You got me there. I haven't felt so focused in years. Too bad this was just an exception among exceptions.
Well, look at you, Sojiro. Before you know it, you'll be acing your exams and your relationship with Alice.
I will, Awazaki. Don't you worry.
His cool response caught her off guard, and for a moment she was at a loss for words. She meant it sarcastically, and yet he responded with a warm smile.
I'm gonna change my strategy. The first step, engage her directly. You can't stay mad forever, as they say.
Alco remained in a state of silent shock as he spoke and rose to his feet. He could not help but feel a reluctant respect for what seemed to be his newfound confidence and competence.
Saying quite a bit if a couple people are even like reacting to what happened. I'll go home by myself today and speak to Alice. You have a student council meeting after class, right?
He was right. It was her last meeting before winter break. Normally, he would have waited until the meeting had ended, or else gone straight to his part-time job. This was a part of Alco's plan to make sure he and Alice were never alone in the mansion together.
Hold it. You mean you're planning to face Alice by yourself?
You make it sound like we're gonna get into a fight. I wouldn't stand a chance, you know that.
His reply made complete sense, which floored her.
Even I can see that things only get more messy when you're around, Awazaki. Damn. Oh my god.
Oh, my heart!
Damn.
Ooh.
He's the kind of guy who says things honestly without realizing just how much of a impact they have. God. That's why I'd appreciate it if you take your time with Tobimaru today.
Are you serious?
I felt like he was being tested, but nodded nonchalantly nonetheless. Knowing how grave the situation really was, Aoka was not sure how to respond to his apparent lack of concern. The morning light coming through the window marked a stark contrast between the two, which stood bathed in light, which lurked in darkness. That one without saying. The silence lasted only a brief moment. Staring at him gravely, she said,
Fine. Then I won't stop you.
that was all she had said. Her dry tone hid the significance of their pregnant silence, not revealing the slightest sign of discord.
What a way to describe silence. I think I've heard it described that way once or twice.
I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it also. Described as pregnant. Pregante.
Purgante. Yeah, I love that video.
Pregnant.
Perganinat.
Are you sure you're not angry, Awazaki?
Yes, I'm sure. Do you have some kind of plan? You need a good plan of attack with her, you know.
Sojiro furrowed his brow in deep thought. He knew it would be hard to get close to her through talk alone, in fact it felt nearly impossible.
Gifts work where words fail.
Kinomi had been the voice of reason, wisdom, and folly for him countless times in the past. Incidentally, Kinomi had been referring to Aoka at the time he had shared the pearl of wisdom. But Sojiro had the distinct impression that trying to buy Aozaki's kindness with gifts would not end well.
I don't know what kind of stuff Alice is into. We probably have almost nothing in common.
Sojiro crossed his arms at a loss.
In other words, you haven't got any plan, as usual.
Alright, but I don't want to overthink this too much either. It's not like I'm going to explain things and then she'll suddenly understand. I mean,
He pondered intently as he tried to put his vague thoughts into something concrete, but he did not spend much time in thought. With a nod, he concluded.
what's more important is whether I like her or not, right?
He articulated it that which is often hard to say, so hard to say, with surprising clarity and calm. It was certainly a prerequisite for the task he hoped to achieve. He had no hope of making her appreciate him with words, or with acts of giving with the exception of reciprocation. He simply wished to get to know her better because he liked her. That was his honest, uncontrived intention, and it reflected the purity of his heart. But whether that was his best interest or not was another story altogether. Calculation and compromise, selfishness and conflict. Purity, such as his, often irritated people who believed that morals went against human nature. Or rather, people who were inevitably forced to believe it. Ako silently walked away without responding to what Sojiro said. Her long hair swung from side to side as she passed,
Awazaki?
noting her strangely cold manner. He called out to her. However, she was already opening the door to leave.
I'm going to take a shower downstairs. You can go back to your room.
Her words lacked any expressive inflection. In his confusion, all Sojiro could do was nod.
Okay, but are you sure you're not mad?
Emotion returned to her face as he spoke. Yet it was not the typical irritated look to which he had grown so accustomed.
I guess I might be what someone like you would call mad. I'd rather not discuss the reason why, though.
Poor Sojiro did not even realize that he himself was the reason. She looked at him, and for an instant he witnessed an emotion on her face of which he had never seen the likes of before.
See you. This might be the last time we meet, so I should say goodbye. You take Alice far too lightly, you know. For you, that's a strength, but for us, it's pure poison.
Oh, so Rizio.
So Rizuro.
Oh.
Amazing.
The door slammed loudly shut behind her. Her steps were audible as she walked away on the other side of the wall. The corridor must have been nearly freezing without any central heating, but Naoko seemed perfectly comfortable.
Wait, why am I leaving first? This is all backwards. It's my room. You go first.
Naoko promptly kicked Sojiro out of her room. Once again, the wooden door closed with a slam. The corridor was not as cold as he expected. Not quite as bad as a freezer, at least.
Just a refrigerator. I think that's where we will go ahead and end it. So, good work, everyone. That was
Woo!
that was good. I think.
That was a long chapter.
Yeah, and it's still not done.
Oh boy.
But yeah, no, it was great. I think having the flow between everyone has been getting really smooth lately. Like going from like dialogue to narration, it feels more and more like an audiobook now. It's great, actually.
Sauce.
Yeah.
I think you've been doing really good with narration lately, Kanye.
Thank you.
Yay! Yay! Yay!